ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Let's Play Warframe. I'm your host with the most, as always, Francois878, and today we're going to be talking about the 3 new-ish ability mods that were available and introduced in the Silver Grove. These augments being available for Nyx, Nezha, and Atlas. Now, these augments aren't necessarily bad. I feel like in the past, some frames have gotten some augments for some abilities that were just not what I wanted. They weren't what the community wanted, and the group in general just thought that DE could have done a better job with those augments. And I don't necessarily think that with any of these ability augments. I just think that there might have been something better that they could have done with these. We're going to go through each one, and I'm going to kind of elaborate on that as we go through. First off, Nyx, the ability augment for her Absorb is called Assimilate, and basically it allows you to cast Absorb at 50% of its range, but you can move around at 50% of your normal speed. So instead of being being locked into one spot and not being able to really move and go where the battle is, you can now adjust your positioning to be in the brunt of where the action is. Unfortunately, the range for Absorb has been cut in half. So it's a tough augment, I think, to build into Absorb builds, because I wouldn't use Overextended with Absorb, because Overextended is going to hurt the amount of damage that you're dealing when you detonate the Absorb bubble. And so I would personally just go with Stretch. I would just get a little extra range and put myself into a position where the fighting is the hottest, absorb as much damage as possible, and then blow the bubble. So with this Assimilate build, with this Assimilate mod, you almost have to take Overextended, because you want as much range for this ability as humanly possible. But if you're going to take Overextended, that means you're not going to be dealing as much damage. So it's a tough thing to incorporate into a build, I think. Yes, you obviously get the advantage of being able to basically take 0 damage and still be able to kind of move around, and you do get the advantage of being able to reposition yourself. But as far as being able to implement it into certain builds, I think it would be sort of tough. So we'll see. I think Assimilate is an interesting augment. I'm not sure I totally buy it yet. I have to do a little bit more experimentation with it to really iron it out. But the next augment we're going to talk about is Path of Statues for Atlas's Landslide ability. This augment will create a trail that lasts for 12 seconds behind you when you use Landslide, and this trail will petrify any enemy that touches it for 6 seconds. Now, the problem with this mod is that I don't think it'll see a whole lot of action in low-level play. I think that if you're using Atlas and you're using Landslide will probably kill in one shot, or maybe 2, anything below level 50 or 60, easily. So, Landslide Path of Statues will only really see play above that point, you know, during sorties, during raids, as a crowd control item. It may see some play as well in smaller maps for interception or defense, being able to set up those lines pretty consistently, and you could even build Atlas for just high efficiency, so that you can landslide all over the place and just focus on creating those petrification lines. Now, like I said before, this is another one of those ability augments that I think it would be difficult to fit into a landslide build. Landslide, to get as much damage as possible, but still making it as efficient as possible, is a tricky balance to maintain already. So to put Path of Statues on this ability and to really guarantee that it's still top-notch may hurt your build more than what Path of Statues is going to be able to do for you. So I think it's interesting. I think that, you know, they could have probably made a more practical mod for Atlas as far as landslide goes. Maybe stripping armor, or, you know, increasing the duration timer for combos, or something like that. But like that's more of a direct buff upgrade, which is something that DE has said many times that they don't want to do with these augments. They don't want to just buff abilities. They want to give abilities an interesting twist to change them. So, and that's what Path of Statues accomplishes. So, the final ability augment is for Nizha. Warding Halo is, the augment is called Safeguard. This allows you to cast Warding Halo on allies at 50% strength. This is an absolutely incredible augment. I know I've gone out of order. I talked about the augments in a different order than the footage is actually showing, but allowing... Nizha is already a pretty solid support frame as far as being able to provide pretty decent CC through his ult, as well as damage through his ult and through Firewalker. And now with Safeguard being able to provide actual defensive support buffs to the entire team, there's no reason that if you're running Nizha, you shouldn't have this augment on your build. Regardless of the build, it should be on there. It is a team-focused augment, and it should absolutely always be on your build somewhere. 100%. And some people, you know, think that that might be a bad thing, that that sort of augment, that sort of quote-unquote mandatory mod might not be the best idea. And it's not necessarily a mandatory mod, especially if you're doing solo stuff. Obviously, if you have no allies to buff with Warding Halo, there's not really a point in having it on. But it's a mandatory mod in that it allows you to keep your team alive and support them. I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. Maybe I'm crazy. Let me know in the comment section what y'all think about that. Coming up this week, I've got some more Warframe stuff coming at you. Please stay tuned for that. Until next time, I'm your host of the most, as always, Francois878, signing off.